Hey folks, how you doing? Today I want to talk to you about the whole tone scale. Specifically how you can use this scale to solo over dominant chords, because this is a scale that's really simple, really easy to use, and which can completely transform your solos. This is a hexatonic scale, it's a 6-note scale, and unlocking it is going to give you a really sort of dreamy outside sound that you've definitely heard before. The most sort of famous, I guess, use of this scale is on Stevie Wonder's classic tune, You Are the Sunshine of My Life. You know that. That is literally just the whole tone scale. It's a symmetrical scale, so the good news is that if you learn one of these, you've got basically half of the dominant chords available that you can solo over. All you've then got to do is learn the other one. So this is a really good one, really simple, and really transformative. So let's get into it. So we're going to play today mostly in the key of C major, so we're going to be thinking about the G7 chord. And if we were going to play the scale over a dominant chord in the key of C major, we'd start on G, we'd play it like this. G, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, F or E sharp, and then back to G, okay? The easiest way I think to look at this scale is to think about if we were going to play a 2-5-1 in the key of C major, that G7 chord, 9 times out of 10, we're going to alter it, we're going to add something to it. So typically, when I play a G7 chord, I tend to add a sharp 5, okay? So I'll play this chord rather than just a straight G7 chord. So where this scale comes in useful is that we have that sharp 5 in the scale. But what's good about it is that we've also got the root, we've got the third, and we've got the flat 7. But we've also got the 9th, and we've got the sharp 11, okay? So you've got some interesting tones that you can use over that G7 sharp 5 chord. So how I like to think about this is that you can arpeggiate with this scale a G9 sharp 5 sharp 11 chord. The way I like to do this, and the pattern that I like to use, which I'm going to teach you now, is I like to start on the bottom string, the 6th string, at the 3rd fret, and I like to play the root, then I like to play the 3rd on the 5th string, then on the 4th string I play the sharp 5, and then I play the flat 7. So we've actually got the notes of the G7 sharp 5 chord in order here to arpeggiate. And then on the 3rd string, if you just go to the 2nd fret, you've got the 9th, and then on the 2nd string, if you go to the 2nd fret, you've got the sharp 11. So altogether that makes this sound. So as you can hear, we've got quite an interesting sound there, but what's really interesting about this and what's really useful about it is that we can just move it up. Because it's a symmetrical scale, you can play this arpeggio anywhere on the fretboard, basically on an odd fret. So you can play it from fret 1, you can play it from fret 3, from fret 5, from 7, from 9, and you can move up the scale and do that. And what's interesting is that we get basically the same notes. So if you look at this first one, like I said, you've got the root, you've got the 3rd, you've got the sharp 5, you've got the 7th, you've got the 9th, and you've got the sharp 11 of the G7, of the G9 sharp 5 sharp 11 chord, okay? But then if you move it up a full tone and you start from fret 5 of the bottom string, you've got the 9th, you've got the sharp 11, you've got the flat 7, you've got the root, you've got the 3rd, and you've got the sharp 5. Move it up again a whole tone, start from the 7th fret, the B, you've got the 3rd, you've got the sharp 5, you've got the root, you've got the 9th, you've got the sharp 11, and you've got the flat 7. So you can just keep moving this up and moving it up and moving it up. And what I like to do to practice it is I like to play it up and down. So I'm going to play that now so you can hear that over the G7 sharp 5 chord. So as you can hear, that sounds pretty cool just running that arpeggio up and down, okay? But what's even cooler about this is that because it's a symmetrical scale, you can use that exact same arpeggio not only over the G7 sharp 5, but also over the A7 sharp 5, over the B7 sharp 5, over the C sharp 7 sharp 5, over the D sharp 7 sharp 5, and over the F7 sharp 5. So for instance, if you were in the key of E and you were playing over a 2-5-1, you've got this F sharp minor to a B7 sharp 5 to an E major 7. Over the B7 sharp 5, you can play that same arpeggio at any point, starting on the bottom string on an odd fret, or you can work it up the other way as well, okay? And that will work as well. So let's just quickly hear that same arpeggio in the same position, walking up the neck over the B7 sharp 5 chord. So you can hear that that sounds fine over the B7 sharp 5 chord as well. So pretty much you've only then got to basically, for any other chord that's not a G7 sharp 5, an A7 sharp 5, a B7 sharp 5, a C sharp 7 sharp 5, a D sharp 7 sharp 5, or an F7 sharp 5, you can just play the same arpeggio but start on an even fret on the bottom string, and that will also work. So this scale's super handy. But that's not the only thing that you can do with it. We can also arpeggiate augmented triads. So an augmented triad is where we've basically got the root, the third, and the sharp 5. So there's a couple of ways that I like to do this. One way I like to do this is I like to start on the 4th string on the 1st fret, and I like to start, that would be the sharp 5 of the G7 chord, and I like to slide up from the sharp 5 to the 5th fret, which is the root, and then underneath on the 4th fret of the 3rd string we've got the 3rd. So that's an arpeggio, or an inverted arpeggio, of a G augmented triad. And I like to do that, and then I like to then go from the 3rd fret, and I like to play the A augmented triad, and then from the 5th fret we can play the B augmented triad. Then from the 7th fret we can play the C sharp augmented triad, and we can keep moving it up. Okay, and that'll sound pretty cool over, you know, a G7 sharp 5 chord, or again any of those sharp 5 7th chords moving up on the odd frets. Okay, so let's hear that now just over a G7 sharp 5. So you can hear that that's got quite a cool sound as well. And there's also another way to play these augmented triads. In fact, there's obviously lots of ways to play them, but another way that I like to play them is if we're on the 2nd string. If you're on the 2nd string, go up to the 10th fret, and then above that, on the 3rd string, immediately above it, you've got this F, and then above that, you've got this C sharp. So we've got basically an A augmented triad there, okay? So you can string skip here. And you can walk them down like that. So if you're in the key of C, for instance, over the G7 sharp 5 chord, sound pretty cool. So let's just hear that over a 2-5-1 this time, starting on the D minor 7, then over the G7 sharp 5 I'm going to play, and then resolve it to the C. Let's just hear how that sounds in context. So there you go, folks. There's some ideas for things that you can do, things that you can mess around with the whole tone scale. That should definitely get you started. If you've enjoyed this video, if this stuff is useful, please do like, subscribe, feel free to comment and let me know how you're getting on with it. It all really, really helps the channel. And until next time, keep making music.